Cordial, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Or not.
I know. Board Member Durham.
Here.
Board Member Goff.
Here.
Board Member Flores is on her way.
Great.
Board
Excused.
Member, excused. Board Member Rankin.
Here?
Board Member Shuffle.
Here.
And Board Member Schroeder.
Here. Board Member McClellan is
Is
ill
also
and is also excused. So the first item on our agenda is legislative update. Mrs. Mello, what have you for us today?
Good morning. I have the legislature started 4 or 5 days ago. Normally, we would be having this conversation the day that the session starts. And as you all know, it's different this year. So, yes, they have been in session since last Friday. I'll say it's been rather ceremonial to date and not a ton of substance yet, but that's actually okay because it's given all of us a little time to get caught up and understand all of the different things that are happening. There have been well over 100 bills introduced at this point. I would say give or take 120. Close to 20% of those are kind of preschool or K-12 related. So I think we're going to have a busy year in terms of just volume of legislation. It's not all gigantic, huge, change the world policy stuff. A lot of what we're seeing so far are relatively small and minor changes to statute. Just as a reminder, we have a legislative contact process. We meet weekly with Board Vice Chair Durham, and Board Member Jane Goff, and we walk through the bills in some level of detail. They then make a recommendation to the full board as to whether to monitor, support, or oppose. You all consider those recommendations either at a regularly scheduled board meeting like this, and then every kind of halfway between your board meetings, and these are all scheduled and on your calendar already. We have full board meetings on Fridays to consider anything that we need to talk about in terms of support or oppose position. This is a year, there's a new feeling to this year, and one that I personally, in my decade of experience lobbying, have not experienced in a while. We have a new governor, right, with all new staff. We have new leadership in the House, new leadership in the Senate. Obviously, the Democrats control all 3 chambers. We have a really large number of first years, almost 30 legislators who have never served in the legislature before. So there is a whole lot. When you put all of that together, it adds up to a lot of unknowns and uncertainty. And I'm sure I am not alone in saying that I think we will all feel a little more comfortable a month from now when things have settled down a little bit. We have a better sense of how some of this is going to work. They also changed the committee schedules. So House Education used to meet on Monday mornings and Monday afternoons and Wednesday mornings. They now meet on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. So there's just a whole lot of change in the air. And there's a whole lot of uncertainty about what this is going to look like, how people are going to react to different ideas. And I really am hopeful that when I present to you a month from now, it doesn't feel quite as uncertain. And I hope that it feels knowable in a positive way. We'll see. In terms of themes for K-12 related issues this year, in large part, I think it's a continuation of the conversations we've been having really last year. You're going to hear a lot about teachers, right? And how we pay teachers, how we recruit teachers, how we retain teachers, how we evaluate teachers. All of those will be very robust conversations at the Capitol. We've already seen several proposals introduced that relate to retention or recruitment. There's a bill to do a $5,000 in loan forgiveness for teachers who accept jobs in hard-to-fill areas, be that content or geographic. We've seen a principal training bill, and it's interesting, just when you look at the legislative declaration for the bill that talks about principal training, it connects it back to one of the things that teachers say is challenging for them and why they sometimes leave the profession is they don't feel like they have the support they need kind of from a management perspective. So there's a whole variety of reasons why we would want to invest in principals, but we've seen that legislation. We've seen bill to expand there's an existing incentive program for people who choose to teach in rural areas to expand that. And we've seen some legislation around bonuses for highly effective teachers. All of that is introduced. All of that is moving kind of quickly through the process. I was looking at the chart just this morning in preparation for our alleged contact meeting next week, and I was a little surprised by how many bills we have scheduled to be in committee in the next 10 days. So Vice Chairman Durham and Board Member Goff, we will have a thorough agenda to get through next Tuesday. I think the other very big conversation we're going to see is just around money. And this is nothing new, right? We've been having the money conversation for a long time. We had it at the ballot box this year. It's going to continue. Democrats have signaled kind of consistently that they'd like to see more money put into K-12. How that money gets put into K-12 is really the big question. Does most of it come in the form of ensuring full-day kindergarten and paying for full-day kindergarten in a different way than we do right now? Or does most of it come through things that are directly or a way to incentivize districts to spend any extra money they get on teachers? As you know, the state doesn't actually employ teachers, so that there's an important in-between there of school districts who actually have control over teacher salaries and all of that. So, and then I'm sure you all have seen the headlines in the paper. The school finance conversation, I think, has taken an interesting turn in some ways. So we had the school finance interim committee meeting for the last 2 years. They didn't really get very far. They are seeking reauthorization to meet for another year. In the meantime, primarily through the Joint Budget Committee and some staff and some of the key legislators over there, they have been talking for a number of years about school finance from a property tax perspective. So you have mill levy overrides, you have different districts who have different property tax rates, and all of that as a result of our rather complex financial system that we have enshrined in the Constitution. And that conversation really seems to have been reinvigorated this year. I think I'm confident we will see legislation. It's my understanding it's still in drafting form, so nothing has been decided. But they are looking at issues like how to give incentives for poorer districts to go ahead and pass mill levy overrides. Right now, if you're in a district without a lot of property wealth, and by the way, I am not a property tax expert, so I can't do a whole lot of depth on this, but if you are in a district where you could pass a huge, in theory, percentage property tax increase, it wouldn't raise you enough money to really, frankly, make it worth it. So there's some talk about providing incentives for districts that find themselves in that position so that they are putting their local resources into the game, so to speak, instead of just saying it's not worth it. And then also talking about perhaps requiring a uniform rate of property taxation for each school district in the state. We do not have uniform rates right now. They're all over the place. That may be something they do legislatively. That may be something they decide to ask the voters to weigh in on. I don't believe those decisions have been made. So that is my best guess of some of the highlights that we're going to see this session. I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about any specific proposals you might have heard, talk about our process, talk about whatever you'd like me to talk about.
Questions?
I just,
Board Member Goff?
I know it's still early, but any updates on Ed Committee members, particularly the Senate Ed Committee, filling out because,
Madam Chair, Board Member Goff, yes, the Education Committee membership is finalized. It will be Senator Nancy Todd is chairing in the Senate. Tammy Story is the vice chair. Jeff Bridges, who was just elected to the Senate, will fill the third Democratic seat. Owen Hill will be the ranking member, and Paul Lundeen will be on the Senate committee as well.
and so all the recent shuffling didn't affect the House Ed Committee, right?
I'm just going to pull out my fancy little cheat sheet, which I happen to have right here, and confirm. Yes, that you are correct. So all of the recent shuffling, which there remains some shuffling happening, has not to date had an impact on the Education Committee in the House. I don't think they will. Would you like me to just run down with the membership of the House Education Committee for you real quickly?
Good idea.
Sure. So the chair is Representative Barbara McLaughlin. She's from the Durango area. The vice chair is a first year by the name of Bree Bointello. She's from the Pueblo area. This just lists this in order of Democrats and then Republicans, so I'm not being partisan in doing that. It's just how it gets listed. We have Representative Janet Buckner, Representative James Coleman, Representative Lisa Cutter, Representative Tony Exum, Representative Julie McCluskey, and Representative Daphne Michelson-Janae are the other Democrats on the committee. Representative Jim Wilson, who we know well, a good friend of ours, is the ranking member on the Republican side. He'll be joined by Representative Mark Baisley, Representative Tim Geithner, Representative Colin Larson, and Representative Kim Ransom. 3 of those new Republicans are first years as well. So we've got a pretty, it's a lot of fresh faces on the Education Committee in a variety of ways. Either they're new to the committee or they're new to the legislature, and that, I like that. I think it's actually kind of exciting, and will bring some, I don't know exactly how Education Committee meetings will go, but I think it'll be different than it was last year, and sometimes different can be good.
It's a big committee.
It is a big committee. Mm-hmm. And like almost all, I think, or all of the committees, I'd have to go through my list and check right now, it is an 8-5 margin. Because the Democrats have so many seats in the House, they have 41 of the 65 seats. 8-5 is kind of the typical margin right now for House committees.
Is that larger than it was before? Was it 11 last year or something?
Madam Chair, Board Member Goff, I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember if it's larger. It is a larger majority. There's a larger voting majority. Again, that's not unique to education. That's consistent across the committees. And it's a result of the proportion. I mean, Democrats controlled the House last year. This year they control it by a larger margin, which gives them a larger proportional number of those seats.
Any other questions?
No, other than, if there's any more movement on the Joint Budget Committee membership, because if there's a House Republican that's been slotted in or not, a representative from the House. So.
Right. Madam Chair, Board Member Goff, with current Representative Bob Rankin's election to the Senate, which that's the decision has happened. The actual taking of the office has not happened yet because that seat won't be vacant until January 21st, I believe is the date. The plan is that Representative Rankin, who has been the House Republican on the Joint Budget Committee, will now become the Senate Republican on the Joint Budget Committee. That means that Dennis Heisey, who had been serving in that role for the last couple of months, will not be on the Joint Budget Committee anymore. That leaves a vacancy, as you point out, in the House Republican membership for the Joint Budget Committee. My understanding is that decision is going to be made this coming Monday.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. You all have a nice day. Enjoy the state of the state.
For you as well. I would guess you're going to be listening.
I just want to point out that my notes for today's meeting on the back I just found are one of my daughter's multiplication charts.
Oops.
It's not filled out,
Yay.
so I'm gonna have to go home and work on that.
Say, Jennifer,
Yes.
you gave us a list of bills last week, and there'll be another one coming along before Tuesday, and the education bill sometime before Tuesday.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. So yes, so I've created the link to what will be your bill chart for the session. So far, I've only shared that with the Ledge contact. So the rest of you were looking at me like, "What are you talking about? I don't have that link." I know. We were working through some Ledge contact process in businesses. We will get that link to you all tomorrow. We'll have our first weekly report. Will come out tomorrow. That'll come to all board members, exec team, all of that. We'll have that link in it. Additionally, for the Ledge contacts, tomorrow we will have an agenda for next Tuesday's meeting. I am going to do that in the form of a bill chart like I did last year. That seemed to work well for you all because then you can just click on the link and read the bill or do whatever you want with it. So that I have a draft of that. I don't have a final version of that, and I will have that out to you by tomorrow at the latest, perhaps today.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we are going to be taking a break until, I believe, 1 o'clock
Oh, go. Between the state of the state and your lunch
for the
recess.
State of the State and for lunch thereafter. So we're in recess. Thank you very much.